Let's launch a probe into it.
Hello, and welcome to Class L Probe, to Android's dream of electric lizards. Actually, you know what?
The answer is yes.
Let's launch that probe right now. Oh, it's coming in quick.
Ooh,
The answer? No, yeah. They dream of syndicated crows.
Oh,
anyway, I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, but we are here. We are Davin and Dave, Plain Simple Tailors, and Adam Woodward. Your Probers 3.
It's great to be back with you guys again. It's been too long. Every time we do these, we go, we should do them more often, and then we don't do it.
We don't.
Yeah. Life happens again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Darn you, life. Get out of here. Wait. No. Come back. Anyway. Yes, but we're gonna probe into some issues here. But yes, it has been a long time. Any opening thoughts on any of these, or does anyone want to go first?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a best sequence these fall into, or if there's or if there is.
Yeah, they're very different, eh?
Yeah, I'll go first because it was from our very first Debate 9. So
there's an excellent criterion.
It hasn't been talked about in a while. So let's launch another probe. Ooh. Is data superior to lore? And the reason I brought that to a Debate 9 is because it's, something Data was saying to himself. He's just like, I am not inferior to lore, or whatever he was saying to himself. Something like that. Yeah, because I don't know, there's like a lot of ways. I feel like it'd be easy to defend Data here. But at the same time, and the reason I picked this one is like, how do we qualify this superiority, right? Because if it's the sum of, I would say the sum of things, like the sum of their capabilities, maybe, because you could say, now maybe there's an argument here, but you could say that lore can do anything Data can do. I mean, when he pretends to be Data, he at least pretends to do everything Data can do.
But, and I mean, that's the great conceit, right? That functionally they can be identical in that wonderful evil twin sort of way. But go on.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But I think there is definitely some limitations, whether they are actual limitations or limitations Data puts on himself, that stops him from being able to do all the things lore can do, whether good or bad. It's just like, even just like being able to pass for like casual, colloquial human, you know what I mean? If it weren't for the fact that he's yellow, lore could do that. So like, what do you guys think? But if you want to do it on the other hand, of course, sorry to interrupt, like Data defeats lore time and time again. So there's that.
Well, and I think, but I mean, to me, there's the really interesting question, because you quoted Data, and I think you quoted him correctly from that first episode, where he keeps saying, I'm not inferior to lore, because lore has spent the episode telling him, or it's trying to demonstrate that he is superior to Data. And I think there's kind of a trick in the question here, because I'm not sure that Data ever considers himself superior to lore.
But
he doesn't able to defeat him, perhaps,
to lore.
But
I would agree with that. I think when lore sets it up as like, I'm number 3. Well, we didn't even know about B4 at that point. I'm the second. I'm the second born or created. Therefore, all the mistakes that were made with you are now fixed, and I have emotions, and I can do this, and I can do that, versus Data, who is in his own right, and his own admission limited.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because he's always wanting to achieve something more in the emotion side. But however, it's also arguable that the emotions is the reason that Data was able to defeat him in every encounter.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think one of the things we see with, and I think this came up in the form of another debate at one point. Devon's, you've
Oh, I was just saying I caught my spelling mistake if that was bothering you guys. I was like, his Data is superior to Lore. I just realized what I did there. But I fixed it. Anyway, continue.
I hadn't even noticed it, so
Okay, good.
So we talked about this in another way where we asked, are emotions inevitably corrupting to Soon type androids?
Yeah,
And
that was a
there's
different
ample
question on
evidence
a different
that
debate
they're-
9.
Yeah, right. There's ample evidence that there's big issues trying to grapple with the emotions that come with being an android in the world. But even there, we see Data sort of rise to the occasion again and again. I think, honestly, if there's one place where we could say that hands down we could say Data has a sort of superior position to Lore, it would be his ethics.
Oh,
I
sure.
mean, Data is just supremely ethical.
And whether it's just because of that, the ability to make friends and trust people, and Lore can't trust a person. Like,
well, he can't trust Lore either.
No.
So I think you got something on your mind there, Adam. Though.
Yeah, Adam.
But it comes that whether it's Data or the Supreme Vulcan with no id, because this is what we're talking about here. It's ego that, like, why don't people trust? Because you're thinking Spot.
We're talking about Data.
You must pet.
Right, he has that overweening need, though, to be recognized and to be
right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The Data has, like, if he's not promoted, no problem. There's no ego in the way. If he does a heroic act and he's going to get a commendation, doesn't matter. It's just there's nothing here that is elevated because of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's very interesting, because imagine living like that. Like you're just because there is a negative to it, because people perceive as being detached or not being able to connect.
Yeah. We see. I mean, beautifully when he tries to have a relationship. I love that scene.
Which one?
Lists all the things that he's thinking about, and then
fourth
or fifth or sixth down the line.
I'm glad I'm in there somewhere.
I should apply to your lips.
Yeah,
your point is very well made there. So I mean, it comes with its downsides, absolutely. So yeah, it's a really interesting question. I don't know if Data would ever want to be superior to Lore in that sense. I think he might be content with a better record than Lore. On the whole.
I've never actually thought of it like this before, but excuse me, if you really think what emotional and ego does to people, and some people are very good at pushing down and they don't have an ego and they can deal with things, but others aren't. And it's emotions that really drive conflict.
I wonder if, like, when we ask if it, like, how emotions corrupt, or do they corrupt Soon-type androids? I wonder if it's like just processing speeds, because it takes some amount of time to process emotions, but like everything's happening so fast.
Oh, people like infinite time to brood on a topic, at that speed,
or like no time before you've moved on to something. Your brain has moved on to something else.
Oh, right. I see what you mean.
Or just split between a million other things. Like, I wonder if it's just like there's no time to actually process an emotion properly.
Or how you would if an emotion were a global thing like it is for us, in a processor of that power. Like, if something could actually just flood that with rage, what would that be like? Or with attraction or joy or humor, right?
Ask Lore?
Yeah, or ask Data in that wonderful moment where Q lets him laugh at jokes for a second, right? Which is, that's just a wonderful piece of Brent Spiner acting.
Or like
Yeah.
that other time he starts laughing because he remembered the joke from like the first season. It's like I get it now. Like the Tellarite, or like
Yeah.
It's like, that is funny.
But I mean, like, most people get a whole childhood of being like a tiny person who falls over all the time and like has people sort of clustered around them to figure out how to deal with all of those system flooding feelings.
Well, do you
And
also
they
remember?
start out as like 400-pound, like super strong machine men. Sorry, Adam.
Yeah, but you remember that other episode? That episode where Data was put in charge of the fleet, and they had to put a tachyon web out to stop the run.
Do I?
And he was a captain of the ship, and it was that Hobson.
Of the Sutherland.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
and Hobson was the second or first officer, and you don't care. Nothing matters to you.
Yeah.
Yes.
You just don't care. He's just like, I'm starting to not care about you, Mr. Hobson.
But I mean, it comes back to the whole, like, in my mind, guys, I'm just keep coming back to the good, the good of the many outweigh the good of the one of the few, and this is what he has, is that capability to just almost detach himself. But however, and this is where I think he is superior, he can drop that in when he needs to. He's got his best friend Geordi. He understands that the crew, it's not always about the good of the one.
Yeah. Well, and I think even fascinatingly in that scene with Hobson, he does eventually pull out his relational conflict subroutine, right? It's like he snaps at him in the end. He's like, "You get the hell down there,
Mr. Hobson.
Follow my orders," basically, right?
I'll find someone who
which is
can.
a fascinating return of that moment, right? Where like he fails in it so many times in that first attempt to have these relational subroutines, but in the clutch, he's actually creatively able to pull that out and use it, right? That might be the closest he has to like an android emotion as opposed to like having a chip in him.
He was getting sick of Hobson's shit. If it's like getting sick of someone's shit isn't an emotion, then whatever. But like that was real. He was getting sick of that shit.
Well, you can see he reaches a point of like total social limit with this guy. He's like, there's no amount of just policy analysis that's going to move him to any different position.
Yeah.
So now I'm talking myself into why he is superior, because I think where Lore, he's got too much ego. He's just hey Sam, good to see you. Happy Victoria Day. I don't know whether, like, what I was just trying to say there is like he Lore can't pull back and control it. You know.
Mm-hmm.
And why? Because he needs to win all the time, and then Data doesn't have that, I think, and that's where he becomes. Or if he does, he's got the measure to respect it and push it down when needed.
Only if it's part of his scheme. If it's part of his scheme, Lore can like walk that line for a while, but as soon as his scheme starts to unravel, so does his ability to like continue on that track.
Yeah, he kind of can't cope with those moments.
No. It's like, the ruse is up now. I've lost my ability to pretend. I don't know. Well, look, I think the Data, no pun intended, is coming back in. Is Data superior to Lore? Adam.
Well, I don't really like the word superior, but I think he's elevated, and I think he's got a better grasp of his whole mental ability, physical ability, and the greater picture. And I think that Lore is very single-minded. I'm in it for Lore only, and what's good for Lore rather than the fleet or the Federation or whatever it might be. I think where Data is superior is that he's got a greater concept to the greater good, and maybe it is the goods of the many that give him that edge on Lore.
Yeah.
Dave?
Well, for me, I'm going to take us back to the great, 15th, 16th century Italian polymath and virtuoso Pico della Mirandola, who in his oration on the dignity of man speaks of human beings as having no essential nature of their own, but making themselves like plastic in the world, making themselves into a beast, or as he says, an angel. And I think that is where Data is superior to Lore. He has
I
made
love it when
himself
you
into
Della
something noble
Miranders.
and fine. Della Miranda's you. But yeah, he's made himself into that more angelic creature, and Lore more into that beast ultimately, right? That's me.
Yeah, I think you convinced me earlier on of this one there, Puxley, because like I was sort of convincing myself when I was like, there's a lot of things Lore can do that Data can't do, but the thing that Data can do that Lore can't do, I think, is perhaps more significant. I certainly believe it is, which is the ethical edition that he has.
Yeah, you can choose the good.
Yeah, man. I think that's pretty significant. Better than all the scheming and pretending to be human or whatever else. Taking over Borg, like, for a little while.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun while it lasts. Come on.
Even those Borg didn't like him.
Not much, no.
No. All right. Well, I think we've gotten some good data there. Maybe I'll just say data. I don't know.
Oh, not in this context.
Okay. All right. Well,
Pulaski.
how about we launch this probe?
We should destroy the probe.
Every time. Hey, Worf.
Worf.
Hey, Worf, look. All right. We snuck that one by him. You're up, Adam.
Is the First Contact film the best entry point to Star Trek? So I'm dying to know you guys on this one, because I struggled with this one as I was thinking about it long and hard, since Davin put these questions up the other day and I was choosing one. So Davin, you want to start?
I would start like somewhere even before this question. Is using First Contact film as an entry point to Star Trek even the best way to watch the First Contact film? And I would probably say no to that question. Like, I think, I know that's not the question you asked me. That's, yeah, exactly. So like, are we good here?
Oh, you froze for a second there. Yeah,
things just froze there for a second. All right, we're back. But I don't know. I want to hear you guys talk now. See, on the actual point, because I'm having trouble getting past that, because I think watching TNG obviously makes First Contact a lot better. But Adam, what would be your reason for thinking maybe that it is the best entry point? What would be your case there, I wonder?
I think that, okay, so simply from an action point, look, it does a very good job of opening up the sequence of who is who at this point. I mean, you don't have to know who Picard and that crew is, but when you think about how that opens up, that opens up with, I can't remember the opening scene, and you guys might fill me in here, but I do remember them sitting around the bridge, and the fleet is being mobilized to go to the Laurentian system to handle the Borg because there's an attack, but they've been asked not to go. So you get a good storyline of what happened to Picard in Best of Both Worlds. You know what's happened. He's been integrated assimilated and then brought back. But Starfleet doesn't quite trust him. You stay away. But that was a great opening. I think they took the time to tell us the backstory. And this, why is this important? Because it was the monumental Borg, the greatest nemesis ever. So you don't have to know original series at this point. If you're going to jump into Next Generation, season 5 is a fine place to jump in. Because again, that's a very good season leading up to Best of Both Worlds. But we're not talking about that. So then you get that. Then you get the let's follow them into history. Okay, well, we're not slingshotting around the sun. It's a little different, but it's cool how they go back. And again, everything is explained. like there's no guessing. They tell us who Zephyr Cochrane is when they get to that point. They tell us what's happened, and then I really love the transition. You know, when you see Earth going to board covered Earth, you know,
Oh yeah.
which is awesome too, right? Because they see the future, they don't want this, and then they go in the past. But anyway, very, very cool how that all happens. And then the lead up to Zephyr and Cochrane, clearly something's happened on Earth, you know, because they're not like us. It's not a standard history of the world. It's definitely advanced, but something's happened that they're living in after a war. It's all clear. Again, very explained very well. So, you know, Davin, I think that there's no lack of clarity on what's happened to get them to this story for the new watcher. You know, you've already know who the antagonizers are. You know who the protagonists are, and you've got this great little story set up on Earth in not too distant future.
Okay.
And then so that's just the setup. Then you get all the action sequence, and again, very clear what's happening. And then this is where we introduce the board queen, right? Yes. So again, for all the new people or existing fans, we get a new nemesis as well. So it was great. I just think it stands alone on its own. You don't need a history around it.
I guess if there was one hole I would try to poke in that argument is because it just starts off, they're on that, you know, holodeck, and then they're immediately just thrust into a situation.
What's happening on the holodeck? I can't remember how this starts.
They're on like a British naval ship or something, aren't they?
No, that's Generations.
Oh, that's Generations. Oh, my mistake. First Contact. How does it start? He's doing a diplomatic thing. Is that the Eugene Chafour? No, that's Insurrection.
No, that's Insurrection. And it's not the wedding.
Oh, it just starts right off. Like
it starts off.
There's a battle with a Borg cube, and he's just like, they tell the
yeah, that's what I said. They're not invited. Yeah. They're not invited.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you get that awesome introduction of like the kick-ass Enterprise E as well. Yeah. Just wiping the floor with that Borg cube.
So yes, so that doesn't change what my point is actually, but I'm glad we clarified that. But no, I meant that. Yeah, but so my problem with First Contact, maybe in this context, is without seeing any Star Trek before this, do we know anything, at least enough, about the utopian society that humanity has achieved and that we see through certainly TNG, to realize what they're fighting for,
no,
what's under threat, why are they going back in the past to save this future? Like, well, how is it even different than what we know? Like, they don't even give us like a scene or two.
They do. They do
that future, do they?
Where Picard explains to Lily, there's not. I mean, because she gets beamed up.
Oh, okay.
You know,
fair enough.
You know, we've gone beyond that now. We don't need.
But is that enough?
It probably isn't, but they did do something.
Yeah, true.
I mean, so here's a fun way to look at it. If this were the only Star Trek film, would this let us know enough about Star Trek to hold together? Because in a certain way, if we were to apply the point you just made, like, does it let us know about the utopian society and that sort of thing? If we apply that to some of the other films, they might do better and worse. I'm thinking about the motion picture itself. It really relies on the established existence of Star Trek as a thing to tell its story. And I'm really taken by Adam's argument here that this one is a little bit more self-contained in some ways as a story. I don't know if it gets past your objection, but
well, I mean,
is it too self-contained? Does it beg further exploration into this universe as much as other films might? Because I think what we're talking about, an entry point to watching.
First Contact's one of my favorite movies out of the whole. Sorry, Dave Mater doesn't agree with me, but okay, it's in his top three. I would agree it's in the top three as well. but I also think that it is a standalone episode. You don't need it wrapped up nicely.
Yeah.
You know, in fact, the next one was not so good.
Is the next one Insurrection?
Yeah, I think so. First Contact, but I mean, you think about
I
Generation.
like Insurrection, and I wonder if it's not a better entry point, actually.
Insurrection's a very
Oh gosh, I haven't watched Insurrection in so long. I hardly remember.
But it's not as good. I mean, it's not likely. It's likely to hook people into watching more, perhaps. Well, is there?
I think in
Would
some
we
ways
say this is the
particularly
best
epic,
movie
like,
for that?
The best.
Is there
Well,
another-
okay, let's talk about it. Like motion picture, Dave is absolutely right. Like that movie was terrible. Number one, even for the fans, still terrible.
a lot of us were just sitting there going, like, what happened to the uniform, man?
Oh my god!
Like, I was confused. For the first time I watched it, I was just like, what is this? Are they just reskinning a different franchise? What's happening here?
Well, funny things. They took those uniforms and they skinned the bridge of the Enterprise D. With all that beige, like they had to use all that beige fabric or something.
That's right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly. Anyway, terrible movie. Let's forget it happened. And then Wrath of Khan still needed a little bit of history there. It wasn't, and then that led into Search of Spock, which was like a sequel.
They're very serialized at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. And then for Voyage Home again, sequel. So I mean, can't hear you, Davin.
Yeah, I mean, Wrath of Khan might be one of the greater competitors to First Contact. That way,
Like what is a
'Cause again,
standalone?
it's a really beautiful, contained story in some ways. You're right. I think it does require. It may not have as much useful setup in it as First Contact does, but it's a really nice, tight story.
I saw Wrath of Khan before I ever saw Space Seed. And going back and watching Space Seed after the fact didn't really change.
No,
they didn't have this big smoking cool rivalry in Space Seed that like needed to be revisited. Like when it was revisited, they did it very well. But I'm like, no one I don't think walked away from TNG being like, man, they really needed to bring Khan back.
Khan was like elevated to the best villain. I think somewhere in those, how many years?
Those intervening years there, yeah.
He was great. But, I mean, you certainly couldn't do Search for Spock, couldn't do Voyage Home, couldn't do whatever 5 was. No, he was good.
Generations wouldn't be better entry point, I don't think. It requires like a lot.
Generations, you need to know. You really have to watch the storyline of Next Gen before you get that one.
Cousin Dave says, I'd say the best entry point is Encounter at Farpoint or Wrath of Khan. Well, we're still discussing Wrath of Khan, but I think I can like shoot down Encounter at Farpoint because it's really awful. It's very bad, and we want people to watch Star Trek. Like Groppler Zorn, it's kind of bad. It's really bad.
You know what, Davin, you're absolutely right. My daughter said to me, I want to watch Next Gen, and I would not start at the beginning.
No, it's too bad. So you want people to keep watching. It gives them to watch Best of Both Worlds and then go back and show them. And it's like so you see where it gets. You see.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, I've talked myself in again. I wasn't really sure where I was going to go, but I do think it was the best entry as a movie. Wrath of Khan is probably second.
I mean, I probably of the films, I think we can agree it's the best entry point. The pilot of Deep Space Nine might be my favorite entry point.
But what about the best Star Trek movie? But what about the best Star Trek movie, which is of course Undiscovered Country?
I don't really know if I have.
Like it gives you the fun, it gives you the universe, it gives you the main players in that universe. It's whimsical.
I mean, it's a great adventure. It's an absolutely great adventure. As an entry point, I don't know though.
No, absolutely not. You need a bit of history here. You need to know. There's too many aliens in that one. You don't know who everybody is.
You know more history with the Klingons or something.
I just think you need more,
Hmm.
and there's not enough time to set it up. You know, even when you think about the briefing of the Klingons are dying, that whole let them die.
Yeah.
I think that requires a lot of discussion. Like, we don't know how Kirk got to that point.
Yeah. We need to know about the Genesis planet and things like that to know that, really.
Is the best of both worlds a better entry point than First Contact?
No.
I think the pilot of DS9 is.
It's better than
What?
First Contact?
Oh, the pilot of DS9 is so good.
I
It's just
agree. That was
so
what I was going to
wild.
suggest next.
And you get all these wonderful pieces that you can like branch off to, and it's
You can get a little Picard, so you like, do I want to go back and see more about that? And
I think it would, I'm not sure if it's better than First Contact, maybe, but it's certainly. If I were going to pick a place in a series, I might start there as a good entry point.
But then you'd be very disappointed for 2 seasons.
No, you wouldn't.
That is true of almost every Star Trek show, though. You've got to learn it somewhere.
Duet is in season 1, sir. Duet is in season.
Well, Tosk is also in season 1. I do love Tosk.
Everyone loves a good Tosk. I'm Tosk.
I am Tosk.
We're all Tosk here. You're kind of convincing me on the movie front there, fellas. But for me, it's between the First Contact film now and Emissary from DS9. I think that it's so good because it introduces you to like a larger world than, say, like Encounter at Farpoint or something like that, or even the First Contact film. Like, you get so many species in that first 2-parter of Deep Space Nine, and a lot about them. You get like the Ferengi, you get. I don't think there's
the whole situation with the Cardassians and the Bajorans is.
You knew what happened at Wolf 359. You knew there was a big battle against the Borg, and there's people upset about that.
And they do explain everything really well.
You get some stakes pretty well laid out really quickly, right?
Yeah, and it like leaves you in a place where you really want to keep watching.
It was a very, very good premiere pilot, that's for sure. I remember watching that opening night and feeling really good about that show, and then I fell off.
Yeah,
this is a close one for me. What do you guys think? Let's. Do you have any guys have anything else any other cases to make on this Voyager pilot?
I don't think I do. No,
I'm just
like the original series. No,
the original series
to a modern audience.
I mean, now if I were going to go for like, okay, this is weird, but TNG
Strange New Worlds.
No, TNG season 1. Is it episode 25 or 26?
The bugs. You want to go after?
No,
the bugs.
not the bugs. Not the bugs. When they wake up the country music player and the rich guy and the lady.
Oh, the neutral zone.
It's not an awesome episode, but it's a great setup for like, what is this? What's the conceit for what this world is?
Huxley here looking for a low mileage pit whoopie.
Pit whoopie, yes.
That's right.
That's awesome.
What a great piece of dialogue. Low mileage pit.
Let's find ourselves a low mileage pit whoopie and make ourselves a memory.
That guy was great. Like that act.
Sonny, what was he? Sonny something.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sonny Birch or something like that.
Yeah.
Then what's the challenge? I remember that line too. Offenhouse.
You can't make more money than everybody else. Then why live?
Yeah. That guy needs to spend a semester or two at the Ferengi School of Business.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Man. Well, I think we've solved this one.
Well, one more thing though. What about Strange New Worlds?
Okay, Strange New Worlds. You guys know this. I love this show. I think
me too.
It could probably be it is. It's a standalone. I've introduced so many people to Star Trek just by saying watch this.
Well, maybe you're making your case right there.
No, but I don't. That's probably true actually. because it is so good, and you don't need any history, like anything. You can just start with it, and it's easy. But
Yeah, it's really good. It is really
I'm
good.
kind of convinced too now. All of a sudden, I wonder if it is Strange New Worlds. Like,
I think
wow.
we have collectively pulled a swift verbal uppercut on ourselves.
Well, okay, let's do this in two ways. We'll
Is
do
the first episode
movie first, show second.
Okay. I think if we're gonna hive them off that way, I think First Contact still sits in the film.
Yeah, I'm fine with it probably being the best entry point.
I think
movie.
First Contact, then Wrath of Khan, because I think there's still
Yeah.
a little bit of, if you know Star Trek, it makes it a little easier.
But you'll never forget those earworms once you've seen Wrath of Khan, and then you're hooked.
Never. Actually, the whole movies, like Ricardo Montalban was brilliant in that movie. Eh? And you talk about ego. Holy shit. That guy had he had Genesis. He could have just gone away, taken it away, and then I had to beat him. That was cool.
Genesis.
Oh man.
Yeah. Well, and then for TV, it's either DS9s or Strange New Worlds. I think
Strange New Worlds myself. It's just that.
I think that's true. It's so freaking good.
Yeah,
I feel like they've hit their stride with modern Trek with that.
Yeah,
in ways that Trek was hitting its stride with DS9 when they got into the better seasons of it.
And we're doing Next Gen podcast internet with Dave and Heather and Jody, and in that, I think I said it's just. I'm so disappointed that it's taken so long to get to our third season, but we're there, which is happening in July. So,
yeah.
And the other thing is, too, the episodes I thought I didn't like, and there's still one I don't like, but I've gone back.
There's one I don't like as well. Yeah.
Which one don't you like?
Honestly, it's the one in Toronto. It bored the crap out of me.
I like that one. I didn't like the one in the first season with that. That fairy tale story going on.
I like that one actually. It's really sad at the end. Yeah. Like really, really sad.
I recently rewatched the Gorn ones, and
they're great.
And this conclusion, and in fact, if you haven't done this, go back and watch the last season's last episode, Hegemony.
Oh yeah.
Before you start, it is like scary. It's good.
Yeah, it's great stuff. It's like an aliens movie, movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it is probably. And the thing is, too, Strange New Worlds also is if you want to like have an entry point chronologically as well. It's like dropping into Deep Space Nine. As much as I love it, it is a bit of a shame to skip over all that TNG first because there is a lot there.
But you have to get through the first season, and to your point,
you do. So it's not a good entry point, but it's like it almost makes DS9 less of a good entry point by not being one itself. Whereas like this one, rather than the original series, which like this Strange New Worlds can almost like, I hate to say this, it's kind of ruffle feathers, but kind of supplant the original series. Like for people going forward with modern audiences.
In its second episode goes directly to Charlie X.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
not great.
They started the grand tradition of rough first seasons of Star Trek.
It's true. And I would never suggest people throw away that series entirely. Like, you got to watch Balance of Terror, and there's other good stuff there. But I think going forward, people might just watch Strange New Worlds and then go TNG and then those movies. Like maybe you kind of could, because chronologically, goes.
Well, I see what you mean. The sort of time eras are filled up that way. In the same way.
Yeah. Wow. I think we talked ourselves into. But now we compare the two. If you had to pick one, would it be First Contact or would it be Strange New Worlds?
Strange New Worlds.
Yeah, me too. I think
you get a lot more
just
out
for
of
brevity. I might pick First Contact. If I had an afternoon rather than was able to make a series recommendation.
Oh, sure. 100%.
There might be, like tactics might be involved there. So.
If you want 10 hours of complete entertainment, you go with Strange New Worlds.
do not watch First Contact 5 times in a row.
Well, the data is in, and we have slight disagreement.
That was a great
very
conversation. I enjoyed that one.
That one really went a lot of places.
Yeah, it did. All right, well, we've got one more probe to launch here. And I'm looking forward to this one too. Actually, I had to debate this one on Debate 9. So, all right, let's take that away and launch our probe. Whoops, that's not it.
Oh,
There you go.
I love that quote.
It's the idea that humanity is slowly turning into salamanders, the most terrifying idea that Star Trek has ever produced. I've seen things you wouldn't believe. Sorry, it's in my head now.
All right, here you go.
Ship's on fire! Off the shoulder of Orion! I watch sea beams glitter in the dark near the Tannhauser gates. Oh, man. So good.
All the moments will be lost in
time.
Like tears in the rain.
Tears in rain. Time to die. Oh, man. Not a great entry point to Star Trek, but just a really good thing overall.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I mean, this is partially a bit of a joke about our favorite episode of Voyager. You know, maybe the greatest episode of Star Trek ever produced.
It starts off really good.
It does start off really good. It just goes so downhill so fast.
So before you start this, can I just share with you a story? When we were on Dave Mater and I were on the cruise, the Star Trek cruise back in February, we had Kate Mulgrew and oh my gosh, who wrote this episode?
Brandon Braga.
They were on stage together. And she just looked at him and goes, "How did you get to that episode where we were in the turbo list?" And he's just like head down. He goes, you know. It was a funny moment between the two.
It's like meth, Kate, meth. Okay, like or something like that. I don't know. But here,
yeah,
let's go back and ask another question: is Threshold the best entry point to Star Trek?
No.
It may be the best inoculation against Star Trek. If you want to convince somebody this is a stupid show. But I mean, the idea, if I take the question with some degree of seriousness,
sure.
The idea that for all of our development, for all of our potential progress or growth over centuries or eons, we may just make it full circle and end up crawling back into the water, ultimately to become fish again, which seemed like what those slimy lizards were really going for. You know, is there a fundamental, real meaning to what we do in life, what the work that our species is producing, or is it ultimately just a kind of slimy accident or slimy nothing? You know,
I'm a big, Darwin fan. It's survival of the fittest, and we'll see what happens.
Well, from there though, where do we derive meaning from it though? Right?
But I don't. That's my point. I don't have. This is where I think that there's greater meaning to be found in other things, but to worry about what we will become in evolution and how it takes us, I don't really spend too much time on it.
Oh, sure. Yes, I see your point there. Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, we're not going to be around to check that anyway. So,
but for the sake of this argument,
yes.
Well, here's the thing. I'm going to put some shine on this, fellas. So, a lot of the projections of the future of humanity has us becoming more integrated with technology and becoming, less developed physically, bigger heads, just becoming more frail physically because we don't need
less emotional
so much, less emotional. That doesn't appeal to me at all. To me, that's more horrifying than Salamander. To me, and that again, as an environmentalist. As an environmentalist and a nature guy, that sounds bad. That sounds like we're just building more buildings and more freaking AI processing plants and like more crap like that. Mm-hmm. Whereas if we're turning into salamanders, maybe we've returned the world to nature and it became more advantageous to just reintegrate with nature. And that sounds like a beautiful planet Earth to me. I mean, there'd be less podcasts, I guess. So I guess we'll get those in now. But
That's right. Don't turn away yet, dear listener. We're not yet.
But I would
Kevin,
rather
are you-
be in the world that created a salamander than the world that creates that kind of picture we described earlier.
Are you a Doctor Who fan by any chance?
No.
Okay, Dave.
I have certainly been a Doctor Who fan. I've followed.
Remember-
I have not kept up with it very well, but
The Tom Baker. Let's just go back in time where it was
Okay,
the
yeah.
Seeds of Doom. It was called, and it was like this. They came across this little pod in Antarctica, and they opened it up, and it attacked a human, turned him into a plant. Anyway, it was basically so that the plants would inherit the world. I love that. I love that little four-parter. It was one of my
They
favorites.
will. They will.
I
You
think
know
you're
why?
right.
Because when everything dies, the one thing that persists is seeds.
Yes.
Mm.
So I don't think you're wrong in that standpoint. Honestly, that's where I was going.
In fact, that's why the avian dinosaurs were the only dinosaurs to survive, other than crocodilians. You know what I mean? But because they went dormant in their own way. But because the avian dinosaurs were small and could eat seeds.
That's a really interesting point.
Everything else
spread
had
them
to
around
eat
too, right? They do a lot
meat
of
or
work to keep
plants,
them
which
around.
there was none.
Yeah.
Can I just take you in another direction? For me, what was the most scary or most terrifying thing that Star Trek ever produced was the idea that there is life out there that doesn't give a shit about humankind or mankind or whatever you want to call it, and will take us or blow us off the earth in a second for natural resources or whatever it might be. Or there's like the Borg. I mean, we just watched that episode where Q Who, where they took Q. Oh my gosh, Q Who, where he took them out into wherever, and they encountered the Borg for the first time. We're doing that.
And is the Borg just like not almost a version of the description of like the integrated human into technology that we did earlier?
Of course
would
it
you
is.
rather be a salamander or a Borg?
I'd rather be, yeah.
I mean, it's not an easy
fundamentally,
one
I'd
to
rather
answer,
chart a
maybe.
I would rather be a salamander, honestly, because
Autonomy.
yeah, well, maybe I don't know how smart they are, but
Yeah,
long
you
and
know.
short, I just think there's natural versus not natural, and the Borg is all about building and collecting and making better through assimilating technology versus just letting things go, and that's I like the letting things go. And that's what I find more terrifying is being had no chance to fight or to battle or just keep your own identities. And I hate that idea of assimilation. That's why it's so scary. It's a perfect villain because you have no control and you're still alive.
I mean, in some ways, what it sounds like we're kind of charting here is a difference between a future that would be characterized by what we might call sort of use values, right? Like the actual fruition of things, the growth of plants, the development of beings, the building up of communities and societies, as opposed to things being like all things being fundamentally sort of made into units of exchange, right? We'll just turn this thing into a drone. We'll stick an eye socket on it. We'll grab the matter off this planet and make it into a Borg cube. That sense of a fundamental like arrogation of everything to themselves is in some ways fundamentally what I think is so creepy about the Borg. Like they already own everything in their own minds because it's all just the same material to them, just to be grabbed and used, whereas the other world we're painting there, the salamander world, as it were, has things that actually have inherent life processes, right? Like it's teeming with different processes going in different directions. In very much that Darwinian way you wanted to describe it, Adam, right? And to me, in some ways, I know we get that sort of Malthusian picture of it where it's the struggle for existence and all the krill babies are going to die, so a tiny percentage are going to live. But in some sense, that's a far more desirable fruition than total control, which is ultimately what the Borg are about, just total control.
We're getting wiped out by the crystalline entity. That's kind of scary.
Oh
Or-
yeah, that would suck too.
And I mentioned earlier, but the Gorn, like that, like what's going on in these Strange New Worlds, like that, like, oh my god,
Yeah, man.
That's a
They
whole
made
other
them
kind. You're right, because like
way
the
different,
crystal
but
of
also
energy is
scarier.
a natural disaster almost, right? In some ways, it could almost be understood as like an earthquake or something. But you're right, the Gorn or something like that are not. They're not doing the same thing. Yeah. I think we've actually all decided on salamanders not being the most terrifying idea Star Trek has ever produced, but it is in fact the Borg.
Yeah,
Well.
well, let's bring in the data. Is the idea that humanity is slowly turning into salamanders the most terrifying idea that Star Trek has ever produced? Dave.
Nope.
Adam.
no, they've brought in way more scary things that are immediate threats and things that will happen, over a short time versus a evolution.
Mm-hmm. Even that Jason Alexander character from Enterprise,
From Think Tank.
yeah, it was creepier than some of than these guys are.
Yeah, because he held his hands like Elon Musk. He's bad.
retroactively got nastier. That's right.
Elon saw that episode. Did you know like that? I like the cut of that guy's jib.
I like the cut of his jib. Oh man.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'm gonna also say no, because you know what else was scarier? When Nagilum just melts that guy's brain. That was kind of scary.
Yeah. That's
true.
Again, that indifference that Adam talked about is there as well. Just like, I'll just kill a 30 or whatever.
Yeah. I agree. Well, I think that's not. Salamanders are cool, man. I like salamanders.
There's a road up in Burlington where these salamanders live, and they close the road down every year while they migrate from one side across.
Oh, that's cool.
That's awesome.
Good job, Burlington.
Yeah,
indeed. Well done, Burlington.
Mm-hmm. What kind? Leopard salamanders?
I don't know, but I'm going to check it and send it to you because I'm not sure.
All right, you do that. All right. Well, any final thoughts there, fellas? We collected some good data here tonight.
I quite enjoy these guys. Like I said to you at the beginning, I like to do them more frequently because this is what I really like when we talk about a concept or an idea behind Star Trek.
Well, we've got a big, long list of topics to continue to chew away at here.
I know. Luckily, we've been producing more, so yeah, we can.
Yep.
We don't delve into them at nearly the rate we produce them.
No, we're evening it out lately, though. We're getting some good. We'll get a couple more probes in maybe soon too, and yeah,
right.
These are a good time. All right.
Indeed.
Well, what else do I got to say here? Anything else? Nah, just check us out.
These are called. Before you get into that, they're called Jefferson salamanders.
Jefferson salamanders.
Interesting. Right, we don't have those here in Nova Scotia.
No, it's a Southern Ontario thing. Endangered. I'll send this to you. This link. Okay.
Right on. Cool. Nice.
I'll definitely check that out. Maybe my pond could use some Jefferson salamanders. Maybe I should bring in a foreign species into the environment here in my backyard.
Do you know nothing from The Simpsons?
I had to call them Chazawazzes.
I had to call them Chazawazzles. That's right.
All right. Well, with that being said.
Indeed. All right. End transmission.